Hey guys, this is Travis from the Pots Up Podcast. As I mentioned in the last week's or this past episode's podcast preview for Match Day 13, I'm going to start something new. Hopefully, for here on out, we'll have to come up with a cool name for it. If you guys have any suggestions, leave a comment. But essentially, what I'm wanting to do is profile some unheralded stars of maybe starting out the mid or just all of the 2000s in Serie A, the crazy era from Milan winning two Champions League finals, Inter winning the treble and four straight Scudetto, Calciopoli, the World Cup in 2006, the craziness of 2002 World Cup, in Italy getting trounced out. A lot of these legendary players that came through Serie A that we all know and love. But there's also, if you're a big Serie A fan and just fell in love with Calcio during this time, which I did, my favorite era of Italian football. There's a lot of players that weren't the Tottis, Del Pieros, Micolis, Di Natale, you know, Diego Milito, Samuel Eto'o, Wesley Schneider, all these icons, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, Pavel Nedved, all these icons are going forever and ever. Pirlo, Gattuso, um, people that maybe were just under the radar, but still very essential to what made Calcio brilliant during this time. And we're going to start with Rodrigo Ferrante Taddei for Roma, most notably for Roma. Also played for Siena and Perugia. One of my all-time favorite players. Would love to find a Taddei jersey. If you guys, like I said in the last one, know where one's at, have one, interested in selling, know somebody that might, or know where to find one, I would absolutely love one of these jerseys, a number 11, Rodrigo Taddei. Underrated player, highly skillful, highly or not highly, just a really hardworking player. Played a long time for Roma. Really respect him on those teams that never quite could get above Inter. Those Inter teams were absolutely amazing, but Roma a couple times were there toe and toe with them. And Tade was on those squads playing week in and week out. So really important player, and he was just an awesome player to watch. He was always hardworking, always had a smile on, very skillful without being the fastest. He was quick with the ball at his feet, and really awesome. He most notably known for his move, the Aurelio, which is named after Roma assistant coach at the time. Gonna try and pronounce this with my best Italian accent. If I screw up, don't laugh. Aurelio Andreazzoli. I think I did pretty good there. Um, some people are known for certain moves. You have, the Johan Cruyff turn, the Panenka penalty. One of my favorite all times is the Kurlan, who came over to Inter at a young age, the Brazilian, but he was known for his seal dribble. I want to say he maybe played for Sao Paulo or Corinthians, one of those teams in Brazil, and that's what he got known for is a seal dribble. So it's not many people, and when they are known for a move, they tend to take their own name instead of somebody else. But not many people are known for just one singular move. So pretty big the fact that he had his own move, the Aurelio, and it was only pulled out, I believe, one time in a game, and it was actually a Champions League game, '06, his second season at Roma against Olympiacos, and it was just absolutely, it's a delightful move. It's really beautiful. If you've ever tried to do it, it's very difficult to get done right and to make look smooth. And he did it in match, and it was absolutely one of the most iconic moves, in my opinion, that you could see. Very brilliant. Look it up on YouTube. The Aurelio, it's awesome. He made it look so smooth. It's you take the ball, it's on your right foot. You fake and kind of plant that left foot, and you bring your right foot around the left leg with the ball kind of on the foot, and then do like an elastico with the outside of the right foot once it comes around very quickly to cut back to your right. Sounds very confusing, and it is very hard to do, but he is known for it. He did it once. Absolutely brilliant move. The only other time I think I've seen it, Ronaldinho. Remember those Joga Benito videos? That's just 2000s nostalgia. That my prime soccer watching was those Joga Benito videos that Nike put out. There's one where Ronaldinho is, it's like a flashback of him playing futsal, but he's also playing it at the time, and he's like doing the same moves that the younger him did in the flashback. And I'm pretty sure he did this move, the Aurelio, in it. He did it so quick. I mean, it's Ronaldinho. He had the skill to do it that quick. It's brilliant. Watch that video. Watch the one of Taddei doing it. Um, but yeah, he's a very underrated and unheralded baller, in my opinion, for that Roma side. Um, he was born the 6th of March in 1980, Sao Paulo, Brazil. He's a Brazilian, not an Italian. Wanted to start with an Italian, but I feel so passionately that this guy was so underrated, so I couldn't start this journey with an Italian. Um, but yeah, he was born in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Began his career, I think it was about 96, in the youth academies of Palmeiras in Sao Paulo. And from 2000 to 2003 was playing for Palmeiras. Played alongside, if you guys remember this guy, he was a legend, great on FIFA, legend. There's a lot of good YouTube uh, compilations of this guy from the mid 2000s. Fenerbahce legend and Brazilian Alex. I think it's Alex de Silva. He was the number 10 at Fenerbahce for all those years. I think even when Roberto Carlos came to Fenerbahce. So played alongside with him at Palmeiras 2000 till 2003. It was there where he earned, after playing there for a few years, earned his move overseas to Italy, moved to Siena, which at that time was in Serie B. He had a 3-year contract. This was, as far as transfermarkt.us, they didn't report any transfer fee, so it was a free move to Siena for Taddei. At that point, Serie B, like I had said, he had a 3-year contract, and in that first year, Siena won promotion. They won the Serie B. The other 3 teams are Sampdoria, Lecce, and Ancona that also got promoted to Serie A that year. Um, there was a bit of I guess the season before, a bit of a controversy that Siena had illegally fielded a substitution, and there was a protest. I think it was Catania, and this led to Serie B expanding to 24 teams. Something interesting. I should have done a little more research on it, but ran out of time. If you look back and see 2002, 2003 Serie B controversy, it seems like it's typical Italian um, controversies year in and year out. That's what makes the Italian league the best. Um, so yeah, he was coming into that squad. He played at first at Siena under Giuseppe Papadopoulou for 2 seasons, and then famous former Inter coach, coach for Napoli, Torino, Genoa, Lazio, Brescia, Luigi Simone. He played under him his last season at Siena. Unfortunately, Luigi Simone died in 2020 at the age of 81. Rest in peace to Luigi Simone. This Siena team, when they finally got back into Serie A 0405, they had some pretty decent names. If you are a Serie A nerd and enjoyed that era, you'll realize some of these players. I'm going to shout out real quick. They had Alex Manninger. It was their goalkeeper. Played later on in his career for Juventus as a backup to Buffon. Played there for 4 seasons. Played 5 seasons at Arsenal in the late 2000s, early 2000s. I think he was a backup to Seaman for Arsenal. They also had Igor Tudor, for most recently coached at Lazio. It's a Croatian defender. He was on loan from Juventus for Siena. He's more known, I would say, probably for being a manager. He's managed Galatasaray, Udinese, Verona, Marseille, and most recently, like I said, Lazio. Former Inter player also played on this team, Francesco Colonese, which if you go to any Inter thing in the States, I believe he lives stateside here in the United States. He's always the Inter legend, quote unquote, that comes out. He played for Inter for a long time. I think he was on that 98 UEFA Cup team with Ronaldo and Zanetti, Zamorano, and there's so many players you can name, but I believe he was on that squad. Current Empoli manager Roberto D'Aversa was on that squad. And they also, another guy that I might detail after this one, this might be the next episode. They have one of my favorite and most underrated Serie A players who I think I might purchase his jersey for Siena here soon. I found one of her good price. Really great player, underrated. The bald assassin always came up against Inter and terrorized us. I feel like Massimo Macarone. just an all-around great player. I think he had maybe, I wouldn't say the ability of a Micoli, Fabrizio Micoli, or a Antonio Di Natale, but Massimo Macarone, he on his day did have that ability, and he was shorter in stature like them, stout, just a fun player to watch. And they also had legendary Italian, Italy international father Federico Chiesa. They had Enzo Chiesa. This was pretty much the swan song of his career. I think he played for one more club after Siena, but only for a season. Joined in '03 from Lazio, and over that course played 129 times for Siena and bagged in 32 goals. So Tede, while at Siena, they won Serie B. They finished in the first season 14th, and they had 43 points, so above that safety net of 40 points, whichever one. Juve won that title, but they were stripped it due to Calciopoli. Um, and yeah, and they hovered around that 14th, 13th position. I think at one point they finished 17th in the few years that he was there, and he had 48 appearances and 11 goals. This also earned him a free transfer, his second free transfer, this time to Roma in 2005, 2006. Big step up, a big club, Roma at the time. Believe they finished fifth in the Serie A that season, but due to Calciopoli, ended up finishing second. So they were Champions League squad, second behind Inter, who won the Scudetto that year. And at this time, he was age 25. That season, Doni, if you remember him, another great Roma player from those squads. I'm going to detail a couple of players. I really enjoyed this Roma era. The jerseys were classic, and they had some great players. But Doni was the goalkeeper. I'll kind of I would say like Alisson for Liverpool. Obviously, the connections there for them both playing at Roma. But Doni was a crazy Brazilian keeper who athletic, would make some crazy diving saves. Um, Kind of shorter, if I remember correctly. Pretty decent for his feet, which at that time in Italy wasn't as big of a thing. But he also went to Roma. Hussein Kharja, former Inter player, best squad, probably known for his times at Siena or Genoa. Played for Inter as well. He was on loan at Roma at that point. And it was kind of here at Roma where everyone most notably knows Taddei's time in Serie A. It's where he found a home. He was there from 2005, 2006 to 2013, 2014, I believe. Yeah, moved to Perugia in the summer of 2014. So he was there for 05, 14, 9 years, 9 seasons, and really became a Romanista. Other than the legends that Roma has during this time, Taddei was there for 9 seasons. That's a long period of time for any player to play for any club. So he is definitely a Romanista and a Romanista legend. If you're there in Rome, I'm sure the Roma supporters really hold Taddei in a high regard. May not so much over here in the States because Serie A wasn't as big and as easy to find at that time. Um, but he formed some great teams during his time alongside some great teammates. Like I said, I was going to mention Mexes, the French defender, long blonde hair, ended up going to Milan, scored some bangers for Milan. Crazy. Always loved Mexes. Uh, Alberto Aquilani, the promising, he might be another one I do one on. He was awesome. Got injured. He went to Liverpool, Aquilani. Just one of those showed so much promise, but the injuries really ruined his career. Olivier Dacour, he's the one I'm probably going to do a profile piece on. Roma, played for Inter, Frenchman, midfielder, really great. Simone Perrotta, Italian international. Don't know if he was on that '06 team. I want to say he was on that '06 team that won the World Cup. Really great player. Amadino Mancini, fellow Brazilian, who I absolutely loved. Moved to Inter and kind of failed at Inter, but Mancini scored some bangers of a goals for Roma as well. And then, of course, alongside, the legends, Daniele De Rossi and Francesco Totti there at Roma. Roma really had a fun squad in Taddei's time while he was there. Uh, his first manager at Roma came from Udinese, joined the same season that Taddei joined Roma. Luciano Spalletti, legendary Italian manager, won the Serie A with Napoli, took Inter back to the Champions League, finished second place so many times for Roma, manages the Italian national team now. Absolute legend, Luciano Spalletti. And those Roma teams were fun. Like I said, they had ended in fifth in 0506, so that was actually his first season there. And that was when they relegated Juve, Milan, Fiorentina. So his first season there led them to eventually second place finish in the season or in the league and into the Champions League. They would be able to play the next season. He made his debut match day one and a 3-0 win versus Regina. And within the next two seasons, Roma would finish with Rodrigo Taddei on their squad, would finish runners up um, to Inter, as well as that 09 2010 season where Inter won the treble. They were the runners up there. They did falter to a sixth place in 08 09, which that kind of led to Luciano Spalletti being replaced by Claudio Ranieri. Um, so he also, there was a little bit of instability at Rome at that time, but then they bounced back and won, or sorry, became second place in the league that season. Rodrigo Taddei would finish second in the league with Roma two more times in 2013-14 and 2014-15, both times second place to Juve. That pretty much brings his time in Italy as far as leagues go with one Serie B championship and seven runners up in the Serie A. Never got that Serie A Scudetto title. Kind of really crazy um, to know that he was in all of those Roma teams that were finishing second, and he never gets mentioned alongside with those other people that I mentioned earlier. I forgot to mention Juan for not Juan Jesus, but just Juan, the center back for Roma during that time as well. Roma had some great players. I was always a fan of Roma, and Tete was just great for them. Uh, he did win two Coppa Italias. He won the 2006-2007 in his second season at Roma and the 2007-2008. So back-to-back Coppa Italias. And the one in 06-07, this was a two-leg, back when it was a two-legged Coppa Italia final. He played 77 minutes in the first leg and a full 90 in the second leg. He didn't feature in the one-legged affair of the Coppa Italia in 07-08. Let's see. He traditionally, Rodrigo Taddei, I guess I should have mentioned this earlier, played at right wing. But what made him so special and so endearing to the Romanista fans, and just people who love Serie A in general, because you saw him week in and week out, you just didn't know what position he was going to be towards kind of like the middle to latter part of his career. Because, he started out as a right winger for Siena and for Roma. Could play, bounce around along the front line, but he was skillful, needed to be close to goal, made things happen, creative player, but became a player that would play any position. And he had the ability to play anywhere. I read that he featured in competitive action with Palmeiras or Roma or Siena or Perugia. He played everywhere on the pitch but center back, and that includes he played goalkeeper for Palmeiras one time when their goalkeeper got a red card. So pretty crazy. He could do anything. He was highly skilled, highly technical. He's a hard-working player, good on both feet. He wasn't pacey. He was quick. In his first season with Roma, he had 9 goals in 53 appearances. Ended up playing for Roma in 296 appearances in total, 31 goals total. Um, so he did a lot and had a lot of impact for Roma. Some very important goals he had. One of his first ones in the Derby della Capitale against Lazio, which if you're a Roma fan and somebody scores against Lazio, they will forever be legendary and ingrained in your heart. He did this in his first season. It was the second match against Lazio. It was in February of 2006. Brilliant header from a corner in the 31st minute. Roma ended up winning that match 2-0 as well. great start for him, and that really endeared himself to the Roman fans. He had a really great goal, or other great goals, and really important goals too. He scored the opening goal versus Manchester United at the Stadio Olimpico in the quarterfinals of the 06-07 Champions League. Roma ended up winning that one 2-1, which was huge at the time. I remember coming home from school watching that and kind of being hyped for Roma, even though I was an Inter fan. And then what happened next? They ended up losing 7-1 at Old Trafford, getting absolutely demolished. Taddei, maybe this is why they got demolished. Someone didn't feature in that match. He missed it through injury. Maybe if he would have been on the field, they wouldn't have got demolished as much. Because he brought that energy, he brought that desire, he brought that hunger alongside of Daniele De Rossi and a Totti. He was that guy that felt like he bled for Rome. Um, being a Brazilian, though, it was cool to see him love the club, kind of like Zanetti. Not comparing them in any way, shape, or form. Kind of like Zanetti being Argentinian and really loving Inter. Um, in that same season, 06-07, scored an absolute banger of a volley, almost like a bicycle against Cagliari. Um, it just showcased how good this guy actually was on his day. If he had the space to do it, he could provide something of pure class. Um, that's another one to watch on YouTube. Watch that goal versus Cagliari. Scored another brilliant header in the '07, the next season, '07-08 Champions League campaign versus Real Madrid. They ended up knocking Madrid out in that season of the Champions League as well, moving on to the quarterfinals. Again, so Roma, during his first early season there, was a very good player in Europe, very great player in Italy, winning a couple Coppa Italias, finishing second, and Rodrigo Taddei scored a lot of important goals, like I just showcased, and was always on the team sheet, it seemed like. During this whole time, too, anytime he scored, one thing that always stood out to me, he had a signature celebration that not many people do or I've seen anybody else do. It was that put the hand under the shirt and heartbeat kind of out celebration, which was really his iconic celebration. I always loved seeing that big smile on his face while he did it, always smiling very big. Um, yeah, he was an all-around great player. I love Rodrigo Taddei. Um, wish he got more recognition. Never got a cap for Brazil. I believe I said he had ties to be able to potentially feature for Italy. Unfortunately, never got selected for Italy either. Would have been cool to see him. I think he would have done well. And he's one of these players I think he would do well in today's game with how hardworking, technical, and gifted he is on the ball. I think he would really play for a lot of teams at a top level. Um, but that's your signature trademark heartbeat celebration. It's just what I remember him by. He remained Roma until 2014. He played some right back a lot later in his career under Zeman, and then it said that whenever Montella came in to coach, that's when they moved him back towards his traditional right wing spot. In the last season, he went on a goal drought from December of 2011 to April 2014. 2014 was his last season. He finally scored April 2014 after a 3-year drought against Parma, and then he scored one more before the end of the season against Atalanta. That ended his career in Rome. Um, like I said earlier, I think he ended up scoring um, for Roma 31 times in 296 appearances. 296 appearances in 9 years. That's a good run for a player that arrived on a free transfer, which at the time wasn't as strategical as it is now, and really bled for Roma. He moved to Perugia in 2014 at age 34. They were in Serie B. They never got a Serie B or Serie A promotion, uh, and that was another free transfer. He had never been recorded as far as transfer market reports a transfer fee on any of his transfers, which is kind of crazy considering they have him being valued by 14 million pounds or euros in July of 2008, which at the time was a pretty decent for a player of his caliber and quality, a pretty decent haul. So, despite the fact that he never moved, the transfer fee. He was a free agent, Bosman signing every time. Um, he ended up playing 2 seasons at Perugia, 40 appearances, 3 goals. He's never been relegated in his career. Some honors that he finished with throughout his whole career. He Serie B champion with Siena. He won the Copa do Brasil in '98, the Libertadores in 2000. They were the runner-up. Won 2 Coppa Italias and a Supercopa. Um, so yeah, some good things. Just some other notes during his career. In 2003, while he was at Siena, he was in a pretty bad car accident. Led to an injury for him and his teammate and fellow Brazilian, Pinga. But unfortunately, it saw the losing of the life to his little brother, Leonardo Taddei. So kind of sucked. Put it in. It was an impact in his career early on at Siena. Never want to hear of anybody losing a sibling. Really, when I read that, I didn't know that about him, but while I was doing this, read that, and really sucks. As someone who's lost somebody, a close family member, I know how bad that is, especially early on in your career in Italy, um, or going back to Italy, a place that is unfamiliar to you. I can only imagine how tough that must have been on him. Shout outs to Rodrigo Taddei for being able to overcome that and become a great player and really one of my favorite players of all time in Serie A. Seems like now he kind of lives a low key life. Couldn't really tell off his Instagram where he's living. Looked like maybe Sao Paulo, just outside maybe. He goes to a lot of Palmeiras games and Rome games, so probably bounces back and forth. Did mention he had family that all his Italian ancestry as well. Um, and then just overall significance of this guy, I think other than Totti and De Rossi, maybe if you say Juan or Florenzi, no player really bled that Roma red more than Rodrigo Taddei. He just seemed like he really was a Romanista, true and true. Really gave his heart. Always a fun player to watch. Always battling on that right side. I would say probably against Kivu for Inter, Maxwell, sometimes Zanetti, and then sometimes in the midfield battling it out with, other players like Vieira and Cambiaso, players like this. It always seemed like Rodrigo Taddei was on the field playing, maybe not making a huge impact, but he was there working his tail off for Roma, and he was just that type of player. Really skillful, like I said, the Aurelio, that's a legendary move. Um, just an all-around awesome player to watch. Really loved watching him. Like I said at the beginning, if anybody knows where to find a jersey of his, I would love a black one with the wind logo on it for Roma, a Kappa jersey. Those are awesome. But I wouldn't be picky at this point. I've really been wanting a Rodrigo Taddei jersey for a long time. I think he's an unheralded legend. I really love him as a player. Would love to meet him one day. Just seems like an all-around good guy. Um, Huge baller. Man, I just can't overstate how much I really like this guy. So yeah, that's the end of kind of my profile on Rodrigo Taddei. Um, Going to maybe next week do one on someone who maybe played with him. I was thinking maybe Olivier Dacour or Alberto Aquilani would be cool, or maybe an interplay. I don't know. I haven't decided yet, but be on the lookout. If you guys have any suggestions or comments for players who maybe didn't grab the headlines like some other players in Serie A during this period, the 2000s, leave a comment. Let me know. Would really appreciate some suggestions that maybe some people I'm forgetting about that I've just been blanking on. Um, just want to end this with, like always, appreciate you guys. Thanks so much for the support. And Forza Inter. Thank you so much.